In today's video, I get my dad, Claire, who's 96 years old, to sit down and talk about his memories of farming. Hi everybody, I'm here with my dad, Claire Ash, 96 years old, and a lot of family, friends, and even some viewers have asked me to ask Dad if he would give a talk about farming as he remembers it from his earliest memory up to present. So Dad, let's start with your memory of the Depression era.
Well, we went back to the farm in the late 30s. But Granddad was going to lose the farm, and Dad worked in Lansing, $2 a day. And the bank called Dad, and we went back on a Saturday night. The banks were open on Saturday nights then, and he wanted to know if he would be interested in coming home and helping his dad, and they would work with us to save this farm. And so we went back on a Saturday night and talked about it, and the next day we went out and looked at the house, and nobody had lived in this house for 10 years, and the woodchucks had taken over, and we had to clean up the mess and stuff. But anyway, we went back to the farm, and you say, what do I remember about the old days? I remember the old days when I got the next day. There was a big tool shed out there, and being nosy, I got in there, and there was 3 old tractors. There was a Titan, Bates Mule, and a newer model Titan. And that's my beginning of old tractors. From there, I guess Dad took those and done some custom work, made clover seed and stuff like that. But anyway, one day there was a neighborhood threshing crew that was owned by about 7 or 8 guys, and they come to see him and wanted to know if he would just be interested in that threshing machine. And Dad said, no, there's no way I could buy anything. Well, he said, we didn't want you to buy it. We want to, if you would agree to thrash our grain when it was ready, we'll work out a deal on that, and you won't have to buy it. And so that's the way we got into it. There was a Rumley oil pull 2040 and a thrash machine, Red River Special. And Dad, he started working around with that, and he was good at it too. And that's how we got started in outside the farm. And oh God, where do I want to go next?
Well, he had quite a crew, right?
Oh yeah, we had about he hired about, it was a big machine. He hired about 7 or 8 guys to be bundle pitchers and stuff like that, you know. And but then when he owned that, he owned that, then he kind of updated it and stuff, and
Went to a newer tractor or newer equipment or what?
yeah, well, the Rumley oil pull was not big enough, and I remember he bought that bigger tractor. Then we bought a 1530 to run the bean slashers, and but anyway.
And this was after the Depression, right?
Yeah, it was about 31 about 32 or 33. But I remember the last night that we used this Titan. We always had two jobs that were, beans were in the barn and we could thresh them whenever it was convenient. And we got done and started home, and it started to snow. And it was a wet snow, and I can remember driving, Dad had a tow bar on the back of the thresh machine, and I steered the Model A pickup, and we went home and put it away. But on the way up a hill, the snow started to collect on the wheels. And I can remember Dad going along the side with a maul, hitting those big wheels, you know, and that snow would fall off. And then we took it home, and that was it. We parked it in there, and then the war came on, and everybody was getting strapped and stuff, you know, and Dad and Granddad was talking one day about donating that to the scrap drive. And I can remember my granddad saying, well, you know, that we might be able to save some boys' lives. And so I could still see him cutting that big old tractor up with torches and throwing it on a trailer. And that was the end of that. But anyway, we got into newer tractors. Dad bought an F-20 and he didn't like that too well, and then they got you say a super.
I thought Grandpa had a Super M, but
He did, but yeah, that was a Super M, yeah. And well, then I bought a farm in the neighborhood, and
that would have been about 1946, correct?
Yeah,
right after the war.
1946. I bought that, and we got married, and at that time when you bought a farm, you got everything they had, and I got 2 old horses and 8 cows, 15 chickens, and a mean old dog. And one Sunday, my wife said, you know, that rooster out there make a good chicken dinner. And so I said, yeah, okay. So I got a club, and I started chasing that rooster around the yard, and he was faster than I was. So I go get my .22 and a couple of shells. And for some reason, every time I shoot, he'd judge his head. I want to hit him in the head, you know, and didn't want to spoil the meat. And finally, I hit him. And he was so old, he had scabs on his legs, you know, and after all that work and cooking it and everything, then we had to throw it out.
Tell us about your first 2 pigs. That's a good story. I like to hear this one.
Yeah, I was going to get in the hog business, you know, and I went up to Michigan State and I bought 2 purebred hemp gilts and took them home. We poured cement with a wheelbarrow and everything, made a nice 8x8 pen, and the great day came along. And one of them had 1 and one of them had 2, and that was it. And I was in the feed mill that day, and my neighbor was talking to me. He said, "How'd you turn out with your purebred hogs?" I said, "Well, not very good." He said, "I'll tell you something. You got to cross them up." And he said, next time you get ready to service those gills, bring them over. And I'll put the hemp bower on them. No, not the white. It was white pigs. Yorkshire. Yeah. And they had, as I remember, 9 and 10 pigs apiece. So
Now you're in the pig business.
Now I'm in the pig business. Yeah. Well, we moved up on 50 and there was a farm up there that's beautiful farm, beautiful land, flat and everything. But my wife worked at the stockyards too, and the guy who run it, he said, "Does Claire know that there's a county ditch goes through that, a tile, 18-inch tile?" And when I find out that, I said, "Yeah, that's good, I'm gonna buy it, regardless." And the buildings was a mess. And
But the land was good.
all beautiful land.
Yeah.
And we'd had no water in the house, outside toilet, had rats in the house, they come from the barns, and the boys would come down in the morning and they would have things on their face, and that was those doggone rats and stuff was chewing on, you know, in the night. And I've got a guy to come in and pour cement in the floor, and that shut that off. But anyway, it was not a nice place, but it was not gone so far that you couldn't make it better. And there's a beautiful farm now.
Yeah.
But we were there 20.
You had the little farm from 46 until 1952.
Yeah,
And then you moved to Angleside Farm in 52 through 72.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went north.
Before we get to going up north, let's talk about Angleside Farm a little bit. What did you raise? What did you do on that farm?
Well, we put up some silos and a feedlot. I could put in about 200 cattle, and we were a hog barn that was handled 250 pigs in each pen, and it was a nice setup.
And you built a Pharaoh house with an in-floor heat.
House, and we were there for till what
72.
72. We went north.
Yeah.
Everything was getting bad down there, and prices was no good, and there was a lot of guys moving north, and that land was dirt cheap, and it was they were getting $10 an acre, but they were on their last year.
Of a government program of some sort?
Yeah, they paid you $10 an acre and not to farm it. And so those guys all came down here in the lower Michigan and got jobs, and a lot of them never went back. They left their farms up there. And you could buy that land for dirt cheap. And so we done that a while.
And then you went over to the Garden Peninsula.
Well, I always liked it over there. I had a friend there that moved up there, and we went up to visit him. And I never could get that country out of my mind. It's a beautiful land, and spruce trees and birch, you know, and all that, and quiet. And George was gonna have to quit, and so we worked out a deal, and we went there from the Sioux to Garden, and we were there 28 years.
Yep, 1973. I remember that's when I went over to Garden, because Denny was already there working for George.
Yeah.
And then you bought that, and it started out you were raising cows.
There was 300 cows was the farm, and we had culled the devil out of them. They were Herefords, and I never liked Hereford cattle anyway. But I always bred our AI even on the dairy, and I had a friend that was a good inseminator, and he'd come up here every year, and we went from the Herefords to crossbred Simmental and some of the other breeds, and we made a different calf. Which what we done, we put the rear on the front and the front on the rear, and Well, your grand champion steer was gained 300 or 3.5 pounds a day.
It was a,
That's what you got.
yeah.
And all the kids had grand champions, didn't they?
We had a lot of kids that bought calves. It was a beef cow farm. A lot of kids bought calves at the different calf sales and ended up with grand champions and throughout Michigan and I think a couple other states too.
Well, we Denny kept track of the records. We had actually had not us because we sold club calves. We had 35 champions in reserves.
In 1 year or throughout?
The whole while we were there.
Uh-huh. And then you also got into, we began raising barley and kidney beans.
Yeah, we culled the cows, and that left room for ground to work for. We got into red kidney beans, certified and foundation and that, and also a variety of barley, which is still being sold this day.
And that was foundation, certified, and breeder seed. You sold
Yeah.
3 different classes of seed.
We had to build a building to process that stuff, but that was, one thing helped the other. And I guess that's still being sold. Not us, there's guys down in Lower Michigan that I know there's 2 right now that still selling those. But anyway, I've been asked a lot of times what tractors I like the best, and I like them all. They all have a story that they put on them, and and every tractor is different. It has this different thing comes out, and one of them had a live power, and nobody else had it, but they tried to copy it, and
It would be interesting to know how many tractors you've owned throughout your farming career.
I believe it's over 100.
That's got to be a lot. You started out with a 46H in 1946? Or no, 1946 you bought that farm, that John Deere H, right?
John Deere H, yeah. One bottom plow, starter and lights. That was a mistake right there, them lights, that made you have to work at night.
Was that the first tractor that you bought then, Dad? Or had you, before, prior to 1946 when you were farming with Grandpa, did you own a tractor with him, or was that your first?
Well, I started out with a pair of horses. and
This is a funny story. Dad has always said he loved it when he went from farming with horses to a tractor because he didn't have to look at a horse's ass anymore.
Yeah. Oh, that team of horses, they were horses, and that's all you could say about them, And it used to make me so mad when we cleaned the barn. You had to back the spreader in, and Jing their names were Jing and Joe. Jing, he wouldn't back up. He'd sit down on you. And you get him up, and you might get him to back up 2-3 steps, and he'd sit down again. And boy, I just didn't like it. I just.
The tractor, all you had to do was put it in reverse and it went.
Oh yeah, but anyway.
So then when you moved from the little farm to Angleside farm in 52, what tractors and what equipment did you farm up there with? I remember as a little kid, I remember a Farmall H and a John Deere.
And a Ford tractor, a little older.
I remember a 620 maybe, was it, or a 60 maybe? It was a 2-cylinder, the Farmall H, and you say a Ford.
Well, it had to be a John Deere, I think. But I don't remember. I mean, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, I know. 1963.
My first new the John Deere was the first one, but then I bought a Moline M5, and I really liked that tractor. I like Molines. They run slow and had lots of guts, and but I've had them all. But getting back to when we went back to the farm, there was a big tool shed there, and my granddad was in working for custom work. And first I got nosy and I opened the door and went in there, and there was that 108, I think. Yeah, it Titan. And then there was a Bates mule in there, which was made in Lansing. And then they had a newer Titan with a narrow front. They were quite a popular.
Was that Bates mule? Was that the one that had a track on the back?
Yeah. I don't know what he used that for, but he was in the custom work all the time. But anyway, that old Titan there had a thing around, it had a roof on it, and it had a thing around there, the slurry on the top, you know, and actually all it was a 15-horse make and break. It'd go 1.5 miles forward and then pull the lever back, and it'd go backwards 1.5 miles. And I remember the last time we used it, we were threshing in the barn and started home, and it started to snow. And
you told us that part of the story earlier.
yeah, but you didn't.
We had to do this story twice because the first time I forgot to turn the damn camera on.
To put a battery in the dang thing.
My bad. So we might be overlapping the story a little bit here.
But anyway, we parked it, and that was the last of that Titan still. The war came along, and Dad said, "What are you going to do with that old tractor?" And he said, "I don't know." Grandpa said, "Maybe we ought to," there's scrap drive going on then, and he said, "Maybe we ought to let it go and could save some lives. The boys buy some bullets or do something." And so I remember watching them cut that tractor up with the torches, and the way it went on a trailer, flatbed. But boy,
you imagine if you had that tractor today?
Oh, that tractor worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
They only made that tractor 1 year, and it didn't have much of a radiator on it. You just had some chicken wire stretched over a frame, and you were all right if the wind wasn't blowing, not when he's out in the field. But if it was blowing, they would blow that water right out of there, and it would run hot. And so they didn't make that model anymore. But then Dad got into the threshing business, and they had a company machine, and they come to him, wanted to know if he would.
I'm going to stop you because we went through this already.
Huh?
Yeah, we already talked about this. So let's like I said earlier, we did this video and then we redid it. So Dad mentioned this same story before, so I want to jump him ahead. And of all the stuff that you've done, Dad, you've raised crops, you've raised cattle, you've raised hogs. Is there anything that you liked doing more than the other?
No.
You liked it all?
No, yeah. I get a kick out of this to see things grow, you know, and yeah, I raised everything, Bob. But where do we start again now?
Well, we're fine. Just keep right on rolling. We just don't want to repeat the story we've already told. Right. I remember that. I know you get into you get remembering and things jump into your mind, but yeah. I'll let you know if we've already talked about it.
Well, they took Old Goldie. That tractor's name was Old Goldie. I don't know where that name comes from, but Old Goldie was the name of that tractor. And they cut Old Goldie up and took it to the scrapyard. And the war was over then, and Dad more or less took over. And
Was it hard to get seed and fertilizer and stuff during the war?
Oh God, yes. You had to have even to buy gasoline. I had, well, I was going to school at that time too, and I had to have a gas card. But I had a good thing going there too. You know, you could buy a 5-gallon of gas for $1, and I had 4 guys riding with me, and I charged them 50 cents a week. So I had $2 to spend on Saturday night.
So you could take Mom out to the movies.
Well, I didn't know Mom.
Oh, you didn't know Mom yet? Well, eventually you met Mom, and I remember the story was that she ended up riding to school with you too. So did you charge her 50 cents too?
No.
No.
I didn't dare. But anyway, I bought this farm, and it joined my dad's farm on the back. Is why we did, and we didn't. Our roads weren't very good. I remember I worked in Dad's sawmill, and she worked at the bank, and we had to hook a John Deere to a stone boat and 2 cans of milk down to the corner where they could pick it up, you know, and I put her on the stone boat, 2 cans of milk, and she'd ride on the back to straddle that can so they wouldn't fall off. The roads were no good back then.
No.
But anyway, everything got better as we got along, you know. But we started to grow, and we stayed there how many years? 6 years?
The one in the little farm that you
Yeah.
That was before I was born. You were there from 46 to 52.
Then we bought that other farm, or the big farm.
Yeah. And that was 52 to 72.
Yeah, it was, as far as buildings and stuff, it was not a very good, it was an awful chore to tackle them, but I had the land, and the land was flat and high productive, and we started in, had rats in the house, and oh God, I don't know, there was outside toilet, no water, and
Things got better by the time I came along because I don't remember any of that. So
Yeah,
thank you
well,
very much.
everybody was in the same boat.
Yeah.
You didn't mind it. I mean, I didn't. I had a lot of fun fixing that place up. It's a beautiful farm now.
Well, you made a lot of improvements. I remember you guys had pictures of it when you got it, and of course, then it was like you said, it was the buildings are pretty rough shape, and you kept making improvements to it. And then the feedlots came, and the silos, and the harvesters, and you can just see the transformation that you and Mom had put into that through those years. It was a big change from you had the land, but the buildings and that part of it just grew.
I'm lucky that I know how to build stuff. I learned that from my folks, and I done a lot of that work myself. But it got pretty rough in the early '60s, and there was a kind of a land movement going on at that time. The guys were coming down from the UP and getting jobs and not going back home. And you could buy that land for practically nothing. And so I bought that land up there.
Do you remember what you paid an acre for the first farm and the second farm?
Well,
do you remember
the first farm, that was, I remember it was $7,000 at 7% interest.
And that was 80 acres with some buildings.
And we got 2 horses, 15 chickens, 8 cows, and 2 of them had mastitis. And what else? Oh, a bunch of farm machinery that was if it hadn't been for the neighbor being a good welder, I would never been able to.
Do you remember what you paid for your other farm up here, the bigger one, in 1952?
Yeah, I got 14,000 out of the little farm, and I made them guys a bid of 25,000. That was almost 300 acres of land, and I got that bought for 23,000.
And you added on to that. I mean, you kept buying land in that
I
area.
kept buying land up there. Yeah, I got up to about 700 acres.
Mm-hmm. And that was corn, wheat. Did you raise soy? I remember navy beans, but did you raise soybeans too back then?
Soybeans weren't very popular back at that time. A lot of people were trying them, but like a lot of stuff, you know, they weren't the crops that were. They didn't know much about them.
Mm-hmm.
But now everybody raising soybeans, and I don't know of anybody anymore raising
Navy beans. There are a few. There are still a few, like up in the Thumb and some other areas that are still raising navy beans, but not like it once was here in Michigan. Yeah.
But then we went north, and I liked it up there, the beautiful country. But now we got windmills on them, and I don't know.
You know, that's supposedly progress.
I guess.
Well, I think we probably hashed her out pretty good.
You think you did?
Hopefully this one recorded. Because if this one didn't record, we're going to wait a while.
We'll do this again.
We'll do it again later.
My memory's getting short.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. If you're still watching, I want to thank you guys for still following along and watching us. And if you got any questions, drop them in the comments, and I'll have Dad answer them and get back with you. If you want to see another video, next time we'll make sure we turn the damn camera on. Anything that you want to talk about, if you want to see some of Dad's old tractors out there, we'll do that. So that's about it. I guess we'll call this a video, and thank you for watching. And until the next time, take care and God bless. And thanks, Dad. You ready for a pop or something?
I don't know whether I want to pop or not.
Okay. All righty, well, we'll shut this off and we'll go find something to do.
You mean it's still going?
Yeah, we're still going. We're still until I get up and turn the button.
Shut it off.
We're still recording.